All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the session on GitHub Copilot. My name is Ashwini, and I have over 15 years of experience in training Microsoft tools and technologies across corporates in India and abroad. After this session, you will have an understanding of what is GitHub Copilot and how effectively you can use GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code through the extension. All right. In this session, we will be talking about what is GitHub Copilot and how effectively we can use GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code. Okay. So what exactly is GitHub Copilot? So GitHub Copilot is AI powered, okay, code completion as well as chat assistant. To be very precise, code chat assistant tool from Microsoft and GitHub. It has been trained over millions of GitHub repositories, technical documentations, README files, and all other publicly available code over the internet. And on top of that, there is a training done using the normal human language. So the GitHub Copilot is capable of understanding the natural language and convert it into code, and understand the code and convert it into the natural language effectively, right? Now, GitHub Copilot is capable of generating multiple languages, right? Which includes C Sharp, Java, Python, JavaScript, okay, Ruby, and so on and so on. There is n number of languages, right? And on top of that, GitHub is directly available inside the IDE. So GitHub is a part of your working environment as an extension. So it officially supports Visual Studio, Vim, Xcode, JetBrains, and Visual Studio Code as well. All right. Now remember that GitHub Copilot is an AI model, right? So in order to use GitHub Copilot, we have to use prompts for interacting with this AI. Okay. Now GitHub Copilot also suggests how the prompt should be formulated and how the prompt should be created so that the response is effective, so or the response is what exactly the developer is asking. So to do it, GitHub Copilot gives us the four S's for prompt. The first is short. The prompt should be short. It should not be vague. It should not be too lengthy, but it should be at the right length or of the right length. And the prompt should be specific, which means it should ask for specific outputs. Let's say create a file named program.cs and create a class named person. This is very specific. Okay. Then it talks us to think only for one solution from one prompt. Solve problem A. No problem B, no problem C. Solve my problem A. This is single problem which should be formulated in the prompt. And finally, surrounded. Okay. Sorry for not. It is like SURROUNDED. Sorry for not able to write it properly. So surrounded. The fourth aspect of prompt as per GitHub Copilot, Microsoft GitHub Copilot is, okay, is that we should include the names of the file in the prompt, complete names, names of the variable, okay, if those are involved, the line numbers, right, some comments, and so on. So if a prompt is short, is specific, has single problem, and is surrounded by the file name, the variables, and so on and so on, it is going to give us the most relevant response as per the question. Okay, all right. So GitHub Copilot, let me add here, is GitHub is owned by Microsoft now. So GitHub Copilot is actually Microsoft GitHub Copilot, right? So it is a tool from Microsoft, right? And as I mentioned, like GitHub Copilot has been trained from millions of publicly available code over the resources, I'm sorry, repository on the GitHub. So it is very, very precise and it is very, very intelligent. All right. Now, talking about the implications, talking about the hands-on, talking about how we are going to use GitHub Copilot. First, we need to understand how and what are the ways via which or through which we can access the GitHub Copilot. All right. So we can access the GitHub Copilot using the chat window, specially designed for Copilot. We can access the GitHub Copilot through Inline Chat, Control I. Now the Inline Chat is practical and it is useful because it gives us the access to the chat at the very moment where we are writing the code, or at the very place we are writing the code. So we need not to open the browser and search. There only we can search, so we will not lose the context. And then there are specialized commands, okay, inside the chatting with Copilot, like slash command and at the rate command. So we'll talk about it later. So the first way is we can interact through to GitHub Copilot through chatting with Copilot and inline chat. And that inline chat is also available in the CLI. Okay, and we can also access the CLI in the chat using at the rate terminal command. Okay, slash commands is a short form for prompts. If I say slash docs, it is going to generate the entire documentation. If I select a text and say slash explain, it is going to explain the code, selected code. If I say slash test, it is going to generate the entire test for the entire project. So it is short form for prompts and agents. This is for activating agents. For instance, terminal. Terminal means the entire scope of terminal is available on the GitHub chat and we can use it from there. Workspace means the entire understanding of workspace is available. We can perform any operation over there. All right. And there are other different types of agents that we can see while we will be going through the GitHub practicals. Okay. Now it's time to move to the GitHub practicals and see these forms in action. Okay. So to give this demonstration, what I have done, I have ready with Visual Studio Code, okay, with Web API project. So there is no MVC. It is a project that has open API. All right. Map.get proves that. All right. And one thing which is also installed here is the GitHub Copilot Chat. Now this GitHub Copilot Chat is the extension for Microsoft GitHub Copilot for Visual Studio Code. How to make sure that it is installed, we have to look at here. If we see this toggle chat, it means it is available over here. All right. Now you will see that this is the GitHub chat window. All right. So we will look at this code. All right. And I have some plans to modify this code or change the theme of this code or API using GitHub Copilot assistance. All right. So the first thing that I want to change here is, this. I want to update these summaries. I'm sorry. Update these summaries into names of the countries. And again, I want to add another list which will have the states or the capital of these. Okay. And I would like to add two more endpoints. One for listing countries, and the second one for listing states. Let us add one more just for checking the GitHub power. Okay, GitHub Copilot's power. List state by country name. Okay. All right. So it is being tilted. So first is we are creating an endpoint that displays the list of countries. Second endpoint that displays the list of states, and the third endpoint that displays one country, one state, I'm sorry, based on the country name. Okay, so this is the agenda. So now let us jump into hands-on and try to do this. All right. So GitHub Copilot is installed. What I'll do is I'll just select this text and I say Control I and I say modify this code to list named okay countries which holds the names of 10 countries. Okay, please know that GitHub Copilot is also trained on natural language. All right, so we will wait. Okay, and then we have an option for keep and undo. I say keep. All right, and now I'll see that okay it is also giving me uh, uh, some suggestions, right? So I'll say keep it as well. All right, so in one go, because it learned from the previous examples that whenever I am writing countries I'm also updating this, so it learned from the previous uh, stuff and then did it. But let me tell you, GitHub Copilot does not learn from your workings. It is switchable. You can switch it off and on. By default, it does not take all your data and go ahead. All right. This is as per the documentation, but it might have kept the context, okay, for the AI and so on and so on. All right. Because GitHub follows that responsive AI principles, which lets the user know what is all happening inside the AI. So everything that the AI is doing or is being trained is made visible to the user. That is one of the principles in the responsive AI. So let me tell you, responsible AI principles have been used by Microsoft for developing this. Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll talk about it later on. It is not the part of the current flow, but we'll talk about this. Okay. All right. Now moving ahead, we want to generate another list. So I'll say inline code generate list named states which contains the capital of the countries mentioned in countries okay, list. Okay, so sometimes there are network issues. Okay, so it did that. All right, then I say again generate one API endpoint which displays list of states and list of countries. Alright. And I'll say generate two API endpoints which display a list of. Okay. Now please remember that 4S. I should be very specific in prompt. The prompt should be short and so on and so on. Alright. Okay, so it generated me those two things on the go. So you can write it at once. Okay, all right. You can write the entire prompt at once with all the specificities, all the singleness, and all the surroundings, and so on and so on. Okay, but I'm for just for the learning purpose, I'm doing this. All right, one by one. And now something that I wanted to show here for my third endpoint, where I want the endpoint to take the name of the country and return me the name of the state. For this, I have prepared one very good prompt. All right. Now, if we look at this prompt, all right, we will be in a position to see that, all right, we will be in a position to see that it is strictly following those four S's. I'm sorry, let it be black. Okay, it is strictly following those four S's. All right. Now it is very short. All right, it is not like it is way too lengthy. Okay, it is specific. Check out this. It is telling it is case insensitive. Country name as route parameter. All right. Okay. Four S's it is following. Short. It is short. Right. Then it is specific. Check. Everything is specific. Return 4 not 4. Return 4 not not. Right. Return matching city. Except a country name as route. And so on and so on. Okay. Then it is single. So it is asking for single problem solution. It is saying that I need to create countries API that is going to do this. It is very, very specific. And it is surrounded also. If you look at this countries and state arrays, these are actual variable names. So it is surrounded also. And it also gave an example, which is added on advantage. Now what I'll do is I'll just copy this prompt, all right, and we'll get back here on the Visual Studio Code, and I say Control I, and I put it here, all right, and then see. So it is generating my states hyphen countries. Okay, endpoint. All right, all right. Okay, so we have to do this again. Maybe there is a network issue. All right, then I say do this again. Okay, or maybe we should cross check. What are we asking for the right thing? Okay, yes, we're asking for the right thing. So please understand that it is the free version of GitHub Copilot. Now GitHub Copilot have 3 to 4 subscriptions packages. Okay, first one is free. Second, we have Pro and Pro Plus. Then we have Business, and then we have Enterprise. All right. So we are using the free version. It has limited set of uh, capabilities, and on top of that, we cannot select the model. It has to be auto. That we can see here, right? We'll check it here once it generates the code. Okay, and Pro and Pro Plus, it is for individual. It has more options than this, and business and enterprise, they have plethora of options. Okay, like more added on security, more control on the users' roles, and so on and so on. This is for medium business scale, and this is for the big businesses or large scale businesses, right? Okay, so it is these days like it is perfectly available. uh, I'll share the link to go through this and find which one suits your needs. Okay, now it is generating the code. Let's see, I think there is issue of the internet. Okay, so what I do is let us try it through the chat. Okay, let us copy the entire prompt and paste it here. Okay, so let us wait. Now, if we look at here, we have options like agent, ask, and plan. All right. So, agent will use LLM to perform some operations like create files, right, or perform something, or create environment file, and so on and so on. Ask is just for the information. We'll talk about the plan. So this I want to uh, accept. Okay, now it is context aware. All right, now what I can do, I'll just go ahead and check this out. I'll say .NET run my app. I'm sorry, it's a wrong command. .NET run. All right. Okay. All right. Or probably I'll close this up. Okay, and I use this at the rate workspace run my app, something like that. Okay, so let us see what it does. Or you can use terminal also. Okay, so in workspace I gave the entire, okay, context of workspace to this. All right. So now it is reading the entire workspace. So it is going to take a lot of time. Okay, so let us close this. Okay, you can stop this from here. And now what you can do, you can also use the CLI, control I, suggest command to run my app, run the app. All right. That is going to give me the command .NET run. Okay, and then I say run. All right. So the CLI aspect of GitHub Copilot can give you, a lot of options to play with the command. Now what I do is I come up here and I close this and I open Visual Studio Code and I try to run. Okay. Now since we have not created a landing page, so it is giving us the issue. Now if I say countries, I get the countries, right? Then I say states. Okay, I get the states. But then I say states slash India. Okay, all right. So it is not showing. So let us get back and see what's the issue with the code. All right, it takes countries, cities. I'm sorry. Now it is taking cities. So there is a mistake. It is cities. All right. So you can change it to states. All right, then I need to restart it again. Control C, run my app. Okay, and I go to the same place. Then I say states India. All right, still check whether it is running or not. Refresh, not working. Let us come back again. Look for states. Okay, and then states slash India. Not working. Let us come here. Okay, it states and states index, states country name, map.get. Let us first save this. All right, and Control C, then run again. All these we can do with the Copilot very well. All right, so we'll look into it, and then we will stop the session. All right, so this is running. Let us see if it is working. Now it comes right. I did not save that. Okay. Meanwhile, going. Let us complete this as well. App dot map get. Okay. Slash. So this is home. All right, and then I say control I. All right, I come up here and I say control I, control I. All right, I say complete, complete line number 28. Let's see. So there is a discussion that has to be okay. There is a discussion that has to be taken ahead. We'll do that in the next session, that ghost code suggestion. So that uh, the suggestion that I got at the first place was the ghost suggestion, right? So probably there is a uh, context already running, but as per the MS documentations for GitHub, it never takes your code until unless you let them say that okay, take my code for analytics or developing the AI. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much. Bye.